Welcome to Healing Champ channel. Do you know anyone who at just 6 years old encountered spiritual beings, refused to eat meat because he could feel the sufferings of animals, and later received initiation from a guru he had never met in person? Today, I'm honored to welcome Gana Amritananda Swamiji, whose extraordinary spiritual journey challenges the boundaries between visible and the unseen. Born in USA into a family of different faith, he was drawn from childhood to Sanatana Dharma in sincere search for truth and the divine. Join us as Swamiji shares his remarkable experiences in his own words. Namaste, Swamiji. Welcome to Healing Champ channel. It is our true honor and privilege to have you with us.
Thank you.
Swamiji, could you please introduce yourself, especially the background, your family, and share your experience or the journey with our audience?
Well, I was born in USA, in Virginia, USA, to Christian parents. Around the age of 6 or so, the school took me to the petting zoo, and the animals were there. And I was very interested. They had all the farm animals. They were telling that, oh, this is the pig. This is where ham comes from. This is where bacon comes from. I said, oh, that's where the hamburger comes from. They said, no, 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 that's the cow. They said, this is the chicken. This is where chicken comes from. And I saw the other kids were touching the animals, and kids sometimes they don't know to be gentle, and they were being too rough, and it was hurting the animals, and I could tell the animals were in pain. I came back from this trip with the school, and I told to my parents, I said, I'm not going to eat meat. They said, you
That's
have to eat meat. This was must have been 1980s. In Virginia, there was no vegetarians. They say you have to eat meat or you'll die. And I insisted, though. I said, no, I will not eat meat. I said, I prefer to die. I don't want to hurt these animals. When I was a child, I was seeing spiritual beings, devas, ghosts. My gurus were coming and talking to me. I didn't know exactly how to make sense of these experiences, and no one else could tell me who was around. Um, they thought I was crazy, actually. They say, you're too old, you can't have imaginary friends. But later I met my gurus, and I realized it was definitely not imaginary. It was a genuine spiritual experience that other people in this society are more focused on materialism. So they don't believe in these things, and they don't tend to have these experiences. So as a child, I was somewhat alone in this experience and confused of experiencing these mystical things. Later, I started reading I read all the different religious texts from the world, Bible, Quran, some Buddhist texts, Daoist texts, and came to the Hindu Dharma that way and found my first guru that way. And then things started to make sense for me. It started to come together, and I started my sadhana at that time. So that gives a little bit of background. I can tell more about the sadhana if you want that I started doing.
Swamiji, generally people like the mystical things, right? Swamiji, when you said as a child you were having the experiences with the devas and gurus as well as ghosts, what kind of that, like what kind of feeling, what kind of, can you little elaborate, Swamiji? Because I have other set of questions to ask, but as I was talking to you, this is very interesting. Like how, like as a child, how did what did you perceive? What, like, first time you encountered those kind of things, what was there in your mind? What was that imaginary things that you were seeing, Swamiji?
Well, it was somewhat terrifying.
Mm.
I remember there used to be some devas who went around with me and they would talk to me. I don't know if they were pitris, ancestors, or if they were devas, but they would guide me and help me. But adults kept telling me, "No, you're too old. You shouldn't be talking to this imaginary friend." So I told them to go away, and they went away.
Mhm.
But then I continued to see different spiritual beings, ghosts and things like that. And the ghosts could tell that I could perceive them, and so they were drawn to me. And they would come. Sometimes they'd try to frighten me. A lot of times when I was a child, I'd be laying in bed and I'd hear like a tapping on the wall. And it was these bhutas, these ghosts tapping, making some noise, doing something. A lot of experiences like this I had. I don't know why. Just because I was able to perceive, they were drawn to me. And because I was afraid, they would kind of
Mhm.
feed off of that, almost like a bully. If a bully
Oh, okay.
is bothering someone, if the person gets bothered, the bully is happy and they keep bothering them. But if you can show the bully that you don't care, it's no fun for them anymore. They don't want to bother. So maybe like this, these ghosts were coming and trying to frighten me. And sometimes I would see figures, sometimes I would hear things. When there's a ghost present, a person will tend to feel startled. Whether you
Mhm.
see it or you don't see it, you just sense it somehow. They tend to feel startled, and you may feel like a chill go up your spine, and maybe your hair will stand up. And this is all a sign that you could be encountering a ghost like this. And this is described in the Shastras as well, like Charaka, the Ayurveda Shastra talks about this signs and symptoms of seeing or being attacked by a ghost or a spiritual being. So I was experiencing that as a child, but didn't have anyone I could talk to about it. If I would ever tell my parents, they'd say, "No, you're just imagining things, don't worry." But I knew that some things were there. I also had the experience when I would go to church with my parents, I would feel like the Shakti in the church or feel the presence of the devas there, and I'd start weeping and I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't make sense of it. There was no one to confirm the experience. There was no one to help me to integrate the experience so that I could be comfortable with it. And a lot of people who start doing serious sadhana in the West start
Mhm.
experiencing things like this, and then they don't know what to do with that experience. And they go crazy or they get afraid and they wind up stuck in their house. They're afraid to even go outside because they're exposed to all these different energies and they have a heightened sensitivity and they get stuck in the lower astral realm, the negative vibration things, not the higher vibration that we're aiming for in our spiritual practice.
Okay. So, do the devas gives you that comfort, Swamiji, when this kind of happens, or or do you, they will give you the energies, or they will give you that intelligence to understand on this kind of whenever that frightened or that fear comes in.
Well, they can help, and they can give you some answers and understanding, but you have to be open to them. And that was one problem in my childhood. I had told them to go away. And so they did. So I didn't necessarily have as much of that blessing. I'm sure they must have stayed. We all have assigned to us at the time of birth some devas that they
Mhm.
stay with us. They go around with us. And then if you go to the mandir, you go to the temple,
Mhm.
even more devas may go with you that's connected to that temple and stay with you and protect you and send you blessings and try to answer your questions. A lot of times people may get an intuition, they get a bad feeling about a person or a good feeling about a person, probably this is the devas giving some message. So they are there with everybody, but it's a matter of connecting with them in some way. And making the regular offerings in puja can be helpful. But they're there. Oh, and what I was going to say is because they're always there and because they're a very benevolent force, especially those ones that go around with you all the time. If you ever see them, if you ever start to become aware of their presence, you don't tend to feel startled like if you see a ghost. If you see a ghost, it's kind of like if you think you're alone in the room and suddenly you look and someone else is there, you may feel startled. You'll feel that way more if you see a ghost. But when you see these devas that are always with you, you feel comfortable. Even, you didn't know they were there, then suddenly you notice them. You feel comfortable because it's almost as if it's a part of you because they're always there with you. Certain other devas, for a second, I may feel startled if they're just, not usually there, or if the rishis ever come, they're not always
Mhm.
there. Even some of my gurus are not always there. Like my
Mhm.
Parama Guru, and they come, and for a second, it may feel like a startle, but then you feel comfortable more. Um, but with those devas who's always with you, it's always just very comforting to see them or feel their presence. And we can feel that with some practice.
Okay. So, and since you are in Virginia, right, Swamiji, when was that? I mean, which year, at what age you met your first guru? And what was that experience with that? And is it okay to say the guru's name, or is it something that you want to keep it as a private sadhana?
That guru, I could say the name, yes. Really, my first guru, I never physically met. I read
Mm.
his teachings, but he had Mahasamadhi before I had an opportunity to contact him and connect with him. Later, I met his successor. There's another guru in that sampradaya now, and I've met him later. But around that time, well, I started studying Ayurveda because as I was doing my sadhana and having a lot of experiences, I needed that knowledge to remain grounded, to remain healthy. And I was maybe having some health problems too. I didn't take care of the body very well as a child. I didn't eat enough food and this kind of thing. Um, so I started studying Ayurveda. And at that time, I met my Ayurveda teacher. I started to realize I needed a teacher for this. And so I started praying that I would find a teacher, and then he just came. And he had a guru. And he never tried necessarily to say, "Oh, my guru is great. You should go meet my guru." But one time she was just coming to the area, and he just mentioned, he said, "I just let you know she's coming." And it's Mata Amritananda Mayi Devi from Kerala. Um, and just before he called me on the telephone to tell me this. Just, by the way, she's coming if you have any interest. Public program, free. You can go, you can meet her, you can see what you think if you want to. Just before he called on the phone, I felt a lot of fear. And when I spoke to him, I kept feeling this fear. And I said, "When did you think to call me?" He said, "About a minute ago." And I said, "That's when I first felt the fear." And I said, "I don't know why I feel the fear. I don't feel drawn to this woman, this guru, but I do feel some fear." And so there's something there. There's some resistance from the ego. And so I think probably it will be good for me if I go. And so I decided to go. And the body was weak and there was blood sugar problems. And I had a lot of trouble to drive long distance. I was in Virginia, and she was coming to Washington, D.C., maybe 4 hours drive one way. And that was a big drive for me. And it could be even more with that traffic in DC is a lot. It could turn into a very long drive that way. And then you're stuck in the traffic. You can't even stop. And I would get lightheaded and dizzy because of the blood sugar, especially if driving too much. So I tried to find people to go with me so that we could at least split up the driving. And some people agreed, but then a week before the event, they canceled. But I was determined to try to go. I found someone else to go with me at the last minute. And then day before they canceled, day of the event, I woke up thinking, I really want to go. I'll just drive myself. But I woke up feeling very strange. I've never felt so bad, really, in my life. I was like having headache. I could barely stand up. I was like curled up in pain. And the vision got blurry. I couldn't see. And at that time, I just started praying and meditating. Should I go anyway? Should I try to go? And she came to me. She came to me and started talking to me. And she told me to do this meditation. It's like Soham meditation. It's a meditation that she teaches based upon Soham
This
pranayama.
is in dream, right, Swamiji, or this is in your sleep?
No, I was awake.
And when you're awake, you got this feeling that she came to you, or you are able to see that. Uh,
I just heard her somehow.
okay. I mean, you could hear it with, but not by seeing, but you thought that definitely she is there. That feeling is that.
Yeah,
No.
I had a sense it was her, yes. I don't know how I had not met her, but I had a sense that it was her, yes. And she told me this meditation for her, they I don't know if it's a secret practice for them, so I don't know if I should tell exactly what it is, but she changes the syllables a little bit. It's not Soham, it's a different mantra, but same. Excuse me. We breathe in with one, out with the other. And I did this meditation. She said, "Do this meditation, you'll feel better, then come, please." I did the meditation and I felt maybe a little bit better, not much. But later, some of the devotees told me that she had not started teaching that meditation at that time. Only 3 years later did she actually introduce that meditation. So she came and told me 3 years before she was even teaching anybody this.
Mm.
I started to drive there, and the vision got so blurry, I couldn't even see the lines on the road. And she was telling me where to go. She's like, "No, you've steered left. You're going off the road. Go left a little." When
Mm.
in those days, we didn't have the telephone and the Google map and all that. So I had to print up the directions like a printed map. And I had reviewed the directions, and it even had an image of the place we were going. Um, but when I was on the road, I was just feeling so overwhelmed and couldn't see. I kept missing the exits and everything. And she would tell me, she'd say, "You missed the exit. You need to turn around." I'd say, "Oh, I'll take this next exit." She said, "No, next exit is too difficult. Go second exit. That will be much easier. Then make U-turn, come back." When I had been saving some money when I was doing my pujas, um, I had like a envelope full of money. Not that much, but like $600 or something I was going to take and give to her. I was driving by the place and she said, "It's here, you're missing it." And I looked and I saw the same from the picture on the directions I printed. I had to make a U-turn. I had to turn around and come back. And there I saw this homeless man on the side of the road with a sign begging for money. And I just felt like this is her. If I give the money to him, I'm giving it to her. Same, same. So I just gave the envelope to him. And I went into there in the event and I couldn't see, I couldn't hear. I had a little bit of money left and A few people tried to greet me, but I couldn't even really talk to them too much. It was a big group of people, bigger in later years. This was fairly early, but still a big group of people, at least probably several hundred or 1,000 people. Um, when she came, I saw her to be the goddess Kali. And I didn't know that there was any connection between her and goddess Kali at that time. But this is what I saw. When she came out, I saw her to have blue skin, big pointy tongue, fangs dripping blood, the jata, the matted locks, like Trishula, she had like 10 arms.
Wow.
And as she was doing things, I saw these 10 arms behind her, like doing all these other things.
Mm.
This is what I was seeing. But when she talked and I couldn't hear anything that was said really. I heard only a
Mm.
few things that I remember because I was just so inward. I couldn't focus on the outward experience of the audible words. Um, After the program, they played a video about her charity works she does in India. She does great charity work, hospitals rebuilt after tsunami, all these kind of things. And I just felt I'm going to give all the rest of the money that I have and just donate it to her and not worry about eating, not worry about my health or driving back. I had to drive back same night. Um, but just after that, then this other message came on. It said, and there's food that has been prepared. It's very sattvic, nice vegetarian foods. And if you buy this food also, that supports her charities. And I felt like that was a message for me, like, no, don't put all of the money into the hundi, get yourself some food. But I went and I bought the food, which was blessed. It's like prasadam, and I just started vomiting. I ran to the bathroom. I'm vomiting, diarrhea. I just purging, physical purging from the intense spiritual energy of this food. Um, it was a life-changing experience for me.
So, what happened after that, Swamiji? Then, how did you come back to your home, and what was your continuation with that? So, Guruji?
Somehow I got back. I don't even really remember that, but probably I think that maybe after the intensity of having darshan of her,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe all these symptoms were not as intense.
Uh-huh.
I don't really remember it. It was a long time ago, and that makes me think it was probably somewhat uneventful. So probably I was feeling better enough to drive home, no problem. And then I just continued with my sadhana, but there was more power behind my sadhana I could feel.
Mm.
Um, I was doing a lot of sadhana at that time. I was not working a job. I had just little apartment with some money I had saved up from when I was working, and just every morning I'd wake up and I'd just chant and do puja all day. I'd stop, I'd take food, I'd go to sleep. That was it. I didn't go and talk to anybody. Sometimes I go and walk around outside, but that was it. Just sadhana all day, every day. But I wasn't having all these very powerful experiences, even though I was doing all this sadhana. But after meeting her, then things started to shift. I started to notice more changes in the sadhana, and it seemed more balanced, more supported, because I think
Mm.
at times I was doing excess, too much, more than I could handle, more than I was processing. That became easier after meeting her.
So, that was very profound, Swamiji. So, what kind of a sadhanas were there? So, were you doing? Is that a question that I can ask? Because till that, you do not have any guru, right? After you met her or after you learned about her, then you perceived her as a guru. Before then what was like what was the sadhana that you were doing, and was it coming from the scriptures, or you have just the books were your gurus, or how did you move into this sadhana zone of Hinduism from Christianity? As you said, you read the Bible and other religions too, right? So how you arrived here? That's
Well, in the Christian church, I had a lot of questions. I didn't understand the theology. And I would ask other people in the church and they couldn't answer it. I would ask the priest and he couldn't answer it. And they have in the Catholic Church, in the Episcopal Church, which I grew up in, they baptize a person at the time of young baby. But then later they do something called confirmation, in which now you're older, you can understand the beliefs, and they teach you. You go to some classes and they teach you about the beliefs, and then you have an opportunity to reaffirm your faith now that you're older and you can accept Jesus and accept the teachings and all this kind of thing. And at that time in those classes, I had questions that nobody could answer. And if I really kept asking them, a lot of people would say, we don't believe these things, or we don't understand these things. And that was very strange to me because every week they'd stand up in church and they have to read like the Nicene Creed and all these other things. We believe in one God, Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. He has one son called Jesus, and Jesus died and third day came back from the dead, all this kind of thing. We believe in the Trinity, the God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And I would ask them, what does all this mean? And they either didn't believe it or they didn't understand it, yet they would stand up every week and say, I believe, and then say all these things. To me, that was very strange. I had trouble with that. At that time, I stopped reciting that Nicene Creed. I would stand up respectfully and be silent, but I wouldn't say it because I didn't believe it. And even I told them at that time of confirmation time, I said, I don't believe these things. And they said, don't worry, we don't believe it either. Just say, and you'll be confirmed. That was just very strange to me. And so when I came across this Sanatana Dharma, it was very interesting to me because it wasn't dogmatic. It didn't say you have to believe this. There's so many different lineages, they all believe different. But it did say, here is the tools for you to experiment and find out for yourself what is true. And so that to me was very appealing. A path that could confirm what the priest or the teachers and gurus were saying. And I wanted to have some spiritual experience. I wanted to know about God. And so my first guru was from a Shaiva Sampradaya connected to Tirumular. They were in Tamil Nadu, but then they went to Sri Lanka. And uh,
may I know the names, Swamiji?
I can tell their names also, yes. In Sri Lanka, the guru was Yoga Swami, but something very interesting happened in that lineage. Before Yoga Swami, there were several other Swamis there, and they stopped wearing orange. They started wearing white, and a lot of them started even acting crazy. One of them was called Kadait Swami. Kadait in Tamil means the marketplace. He stayed in the marketplace, open air market in Sri Lanka, and he would run after people and curse at them and beat them with a stick and all this kind of thing. He'd go into the stores and he'd steal things. But no one bothered him. They didn't mind if he stole things because they noticed after that Swami would steal things, then they'd get much more business that day. So they were always happy when he'd come and steal things. Um, But the problem was in Sri Lanka at that time, the Buddhists were persecuting the Hindus. And probably, some guru or some Swami, they would have come and killed him. So these gurus were acting crazy and wearing white to fly under the radar. And my Parama Guru Yoga Swami, he lived in the middle of a forest. People would have to walk for half a day through the forest. with the tigers and everything. And they'd get to his place and he might open the door, happily greet them, come in, give them blessings, give them teachings, or he might just yell at them, go away, go away. Yeah, I never knew. They'd always fast for like a week before they go to meet him. But my first guru was born in USA and he was studying yoga back in the 1950s, 1960s. And at that time, yoga in the West was still more spiritual. It hadn't become this westernized exercise version. Um, and his yoga teacher very soon said, you've become very advanced in your yoga practice. I can't teach you anything more. You need to go to India and find your guru. And he went to South India, and people there told him, you need to go to Sri Lanka. Your guru is in Sri Lanka. So he went there. And even before he met his guru, he gave away all of his clothes and he was sitting just naked in a cave meditating. Some big python or something went across his lap one time while he was sitting just meditating. People told him he didn't even realize. Um, and he had an experience of samadhi even before he met his guru. But then he came back to the villages and it was actually some Sufi mystics there who gave him some dikshas before he went and was meditating in the caves. But then he went back and was learning about Shaivism from the local people there, and they take him to the temples and teach him about Shiva and Murugan and Ganapati. And he asked them eventually, he said, when can I meet a priest or someone who has this same self-realization that I have experienced? And they said, no, you probably won't meet a priest who has that. You need to meet a guru. We could take you to meet our guru. But then they said, uh-oh, this is the crazy guru that we can't take a Western guy to go meet him. Um, they prepared him for about 2 months, teaching him all the protocol. And this is how you prostrate to the guru and don't speak unless the guru speaks and all this kind of thing. Eventually, they were terrified, but they brought this white man from America to meet the guru, and they were amazed. When they came to his hut in the middle of the forest, the guru said, you don't bow to me. This Westerner, he was bowing. He said, no, you don't bow. You and I are the same. Come in. I'll cook food for you. And then he slammed the door on the face of everybody else and took him in. Later, he gave him Diksha, and he said, you're the guru. I'm passing on the lineage to you. And this is Tirumular's lineage. Tirumular, very famous Shaiva saint in Tamil Nadu. Um, and also it's the same lineage of Patanjali. I don't know that there's any living successor of Patanjali, but Patanjali's guru and Tirumular's guru was the same. So they're two
Mhm.
different branches of the same lineage. Um, a lot of people claim connections to Patanjali, but I'm not sure that that lineage has a living successor. So in any event, the Sri Lankan guru told my Gurudev to go back to the West. He said, don't teach for 10 years, but go back and then teach. You will build hundreds of temples. You will roar like a lion. You will spread the Dharma throughout the world. And he came back. And then later, his guru in Sri Lanka had samadhi. And all the devotees, they called him. They said, you're our guru. We need you. You come back, please. And he meditated on it and he said, no, I'll stay here. A few years later, this civil war in Sri Lanka intensified and the Hindus were being severely persecuted. And so a lot of them fled the country and they sought refuge in different other countries. And a lot of them came to the West. Some came to USA. A lot more came to Canada because immigration laws at that time made it easier for them to come to Canada. But when all these Shaivas from Sri Lanka came to the West, their guru was already there with a ashram established and all that kind of thing. So it's very interesting that just that divine knowledge knew that they were going to be moving, and so the lineage moved to where the devotees would be. So that was my first teacher, and I learned a lot about all the practices from him. By his grace, I learned that you asked what kind of sadhanas I was doing. I was doing puja and japas and Veda chanting in particular. I went to all the priests in the temples and asked them if they could teach me Vedas, and they all said, "No, you're an outcast. We can't teach you." So it was very difficult. I had to teach myself to read the Devanagari because there was no resources at that time in any kind of transliteration. And I found somehow I got hold of some leaked sort of priest manuals from um, there's a Veda Pathashala at Arunachala, and
Mhm.
I got some text from there, and it had some connections, I think, to the Shankara mats, either Kanchi Pitam or Sringiri. I think Kanchi probably, but I'm not to both. So some of that tradition was there, and so I started reading the mantras, and I got some audio recordings. I tried to learn from those. At some point, my chanting became so good by the grace of my gurus that the priests started to ask me, "Where were you trained in India? Which Veda school did you study at?" And then, of course, they all wanted to start claiming they taught me. They wouldn't teach me when I asked, but then when I was chanting nicely, they wanted to take credit for it. That's how people
Thanks.
are sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we will dive into Swamiji's experience with Lord Murugan, Goddess Vanadurga, and many other fascinating spiritual topics and divine experiences. Until then, take care, stay blessed, keep seeking truth. Namaste from Healing Champ channel. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, share, and subscribe to Healing Champ channel. Thank you.